Hey y'all and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. And in today's video, I am finally doing my top 10 palettes for summer. I know I'm a little late to this. I did not mean to post it literally at the end of July, but I'm here nonetheless to share with you guys my top 10 picks when it comes to summer palettes and palettes that when I use them, when I create eye looks out of them, they remind me of summer. So hence why I'm picking them for my top 10 recommendations when it comes to summer palettes. I always like to go back to last year's video and see what palettes I named as my top 10 and see if any still hold true and carry throughout to this new year. So I do have 4 palettes from last year that still, anytime I look at them and think about the looks that I created with them, they definitely make me think of summer. But I've had a lot of really good palettes that I've tried in the past year. So I have 6 new ones that kicked some of the other ones from last year off the list. So that's what we're gonna get into it today. And if that sounds good to you, don't forget to hit the like button and let's jump right into it. Per usual, I always like to go over last year's picks. So as I said, I have 4 that still hold true, that still claim their spot as one of my top 10 palettes when it comes to summer, or that remind me of summer. So the first one we're going to talk about is Nomad's Cartagena Magica palette, I believe is how you pronounce it. But this palette, when it launched and when I was creating looks with it, is such a fun summer type of color story. I love oranges and reds when it comes to summer, and this is a yellow, orange, red with a touch of purple in there. It was such a fun color story. I remember the only con for me with this palette was that it didn't have enough depth to it. I really wish it had some really deep reds, but that aside, I still really did enjoy it, and the looks that I created were just so, so summery, honestly. If I could just sum it up, it really did remind me of summer. And as I said, orange and red are really those, if I can combine them in a look and get a really strong orange and red look, it just screams summer to me. So this was an easy one that when I saw that I picked it last year, I was like, oh yeah, of course I picked that palette because it's just so perfect, so nice, and Nomad's formula is so wonderful to work with. Their mattes are so smooth, and the shimmers, they have a lot of different formulas, but the ones in here, from what I'm looking at it, and for the most part that I can remember, I really did enjoy. They have a couple more subtle ones, but still colorful. Some sparkly ones up there. I remember the yellow being so very pretty. So yeah, overall, had to keep this one in my top 10 for summer. Another one that's honestly been one of my top 10 for summer for I feel like a long time, but this is September Roses Slush palette. This palette was one of my very first rainbow type palettes, and it's just been such a tried and true palette ever since. It's got such a gorgeous array of colors. It's got every color of the rainbow that you could want. So many different hues of the colors of the rainbow, and also just a nice variety of shimmers and mattes. It was a lot of fun to work with. And yeah, this is such a nostalgic palette for me because, like I said, it was one of the very first very colorful, very rainbow palettes that I ever tried and picked up. But I created so many fun looks. I did a multiple looks video on my channel with this if you want to see what type of looks I was doing back then. But it has a lot of good memories for me. So when I saw that I picked it for the summer, my top 10 for summer, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely have to keep this one just because it brings back so many fun memories. It definitely makes me think of summer whenever I look at it, and just the palette, summery, very summery vibes. So overall, such a solid palette if you are wanting to get a good rainbow palette for spring. I do remember, I think the shimmers were just like more of a subtle type of shimmer, especially for me now, but back then I thought they were fantastic. But if you're someone who likes a lot of like sparkle and a lot of like special type of shimmery sparkle on your eyes, I don't think you'll get it with these shimmers. But the mattes are really nice, and even though they weren't anything crazy, metallic or foiled or sparkly on my lid, I do remember enjoying the looks that I created, even though the shimmers were a little subtle. So still a favorite, still had to get into my top 10. Next up, I had to keep this one in. It's Gimme Glow's Extra Spicy palette. I don't even know if they have this anymore. I think they were going to discontinue it, but again, orange and red just scream summer to me. So this palette with all the deep reds, the beautiful orange, you got some mustard tones in there. This is kind of like a short and sweet version of the Cartagena Magica from Nomad. If you want just something more condensed and something that goes a lot deeper and is more saturated with the colors, definitely this would be my recommendation, because this red is just, what is it, chili pepper? So much depth, so much intensity. It's so beautiful, and all of the shimmers in this palette, holy cow, they're beautiful. Gimme Glow's shimmer formula is very metallic and very like striking, very easy to put on, very smooth to go on your eyelid. I really do love both their matte and shimmer formula, and this was no exception. And like I said, whenever I created looks, it just screamed summer to me because it was just so strong in those orange and red looks. Red is such a fun color for summer, especially when it's paired with like the yellows and oranges and whatnot, to really make it pop and stand out and just be very vibrant and bright. And yeah, I just love the formula in here, and overall it was just a solid palette. So I don't know if they still have it anymore, and you guys will have to tell me if you prefer that the palettes I pick for the new top 10 for spring, because I do these every season, spring, summer, fall, winter. Would you prefer that they be in stock, or is it okay if they're like discontinued, or maybe newly discontinued is okay, but as it gets older and farther along, maybe don't mention discontinued palettes? Let me know your thoughts down below, because I love your feedback on that. And last up, for last year's palettes that carried over for this year's top 10 for summer, this is Midas Cosmetics and the TheBasicB Perception palette. This palette is no longer available because, or as far as I know, shouldn't be available any longer because Midas did close down. They are coming back. I've had a lot of people commenting saying Midas posted on their Instagram saying they are going to come back and rebrand as Midas, but instead of M-I-D-A-S, they're going to spell it M-Y-D-A-S. And come back in like the fall or something like that. So I have no idea what that means for the brand, but I'm very curious and very excited to see what happens as they come back as Midas with a Y. So we'll have to see and wait and see. But as far as I know, this palette, with it being Midas, the old brand, and the collaboration, I don't think is available anymore, but I still had to carry it over for at least one more season because this is such a beautiful, this is like beautiful summer, but it has the depth in it. Like you have so many very bright neon intense shades here that I just love to wear in the summer, but you still have a ton of depth in there as well, which you guys know I really do like depth and really being able to get a very dark outer corner. So this palette really gives it to me when it comes to being light and bright, but have the depth in the outer corner, really makes the looks pop for me. I just feel like looks really good on my eyes. And then the shimmers in this palette, oh my goodness, the shimmers in this palette, they're just so good. They're so nice. I really did enjoy them. Psych was one of my favorites. It's just such a special type of shade. So pretty, so intense, just gorgeous. It's like one of those duo multi-chrome type of shifts because it's got like pink to green and yellow and absolutely gorgeous. So as a whole, this was just such a good palette. And I think I created 5 or 6 looks with this for my multiple looks video because I was just having so much fun. I was like, I can't stop at 3. I have to keep going. So definitely a palette that still holds true when we're talking about a good summer palette. It makes me think of summer every time. Okay, from here on out it's going to be an all new palette. So those are the only 4 that carried over from last year's video. So new palettes that I tried since sharing my top 10 for summer last year for 2021. But the first one I want to talk about is from Playing in Makeup by Yolanda. I just recently reviewed it on my channel, but this is the #Basics palette, and this is in her Infinity collection. She has a bunch of 5-pan palettes that are designed like this. She calls it her Infinity collection. And this one, I mean, obviously if you can see, it makes me think of summer just because there's just there's so much color and so much just bright colors, and it makes me think of spring, but you still got the depth in there with the red and the purple. I had a lot of fun with this palette, and if you want to see all the looks that I did with this palette, you can check out my ranking the last 10 palettes that I tried. I'll leave it linked up here, but I shared all the looks that I did, and all of them were just so fun. They tended to lean on the orange and red and yellow spectrum when it came to what I played with, and they just scream summer. They're such nice quality, so smooth, so pigmented, especially these mattes are just so insanely pigmented. Like if you want a hot matte, like intensely pigmented matte pink, this palette has it. If you want a really good, nice, intense pigmented red, this one has it. They're just all so nicely pigmented. They blend so well together. They're so smooth. Definitely highly recommended. So when I was thinking over my most recent palettes and, you know, the palettes I tried this year, what made me think of summer, this is definitely one, and the quality is just so nice. I highly recommend. Okay, next up, this is another discontinued one. I'm so sorry, but this is DeDe Signature's Exotic Skewer palette, and I think you can still get it. DeDe Signature is another indie brand that is closing down, but I think she still has some palettes that she's still trying to kind of get rid of her stock before fully shutting down the website. So if you are at all interested, head over to her website sooner rather than later. But this palette right here, I'm sure is pretty easy why it reminds me of summer, but with the greens and the purples and the pinks, and this shade right here, Chico, this shimmer is so pretty. It's another one of those, it's much stronger on the pink side, but it kind of shifts to a yellow green. Absolutely beautiful. Looks like liquid shadow on your eyes. Like it just looks so intense and so beautiful. And even kiwi, while it's really dark, it is so shiny. Like it still looks very bright on your eyes. So I remember creating so many fun looks with this, and especially just with that really hot, it's not even a hot pink, but it's like a hot peach type of color. Like it's so intense, but it's still more on the peachy side of things than like a hot pink. That shade, and especially with this green, those two combined together with the depth, with the green in the outer corner or the purple, whatever I was using for that look, really did scream summer to me. And it was just so fresh and kind of fruit skewer, made me think of, you know, watermelon, you know, vibes type of thing when it came to a summer look. So definitely a palette that I thought of when I was thinking over my summer picks. This palette was so much fun. I'm so sad that DeDe Signature is shutting down, and she was just so creative when it came to her color stories. I always enjoyed seeing what type of colors she would put together for a color story, because she would create some really unique color stories. So super sad that this is discontinued, but it's still a solid palette. So if you have it, it's a palette that I would recommend pulling out during the summer. Okay, next up, I feel like I have a lot of discontinued ones, but this is a limited edition palette that's discontinued. But anyway, it's the Menagerie Cosmetics Serenity palette. This was a collaboration with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. And I mean, look at this gorgeousness. I created so many gorgeous looks. It's such a fun type of rainbow palette because it's very selective when it comes to the rainbow. Like it has so many colors, you know, it has all the colors of the rainbow, but it's selective in like they have a matte blue, but then they have a shimmer orange and a shimmer yellow and no like kind of matte yellow, a matte orange, that type of thing. So the type of looks that you could create I found to be very unique from just a typical kind of rainbow palette that you tend to get those rainbow eye looks. Like everything that I did with this palette was just so much fun, so beautiful, so unique, and just stood out to me in like so many ways. And also too with this palette, the shimmer formula and the matte formula were just spot on. One of my favorites. Like looking back at all of Menagerie's palettes, this is definitely number one for sure because the quality for both the mattes and the shimmers are just everything my heart desires. So it's at the very top when it comes to Menagerie palettes. It's so good. So yeah, I had definitely had to mention the Serenity palette when it came to my top summer palettes because it was just so much fun. I enjoyed playing with this palette so much, and all the looks that I did just made me think of just such summery vibes because they were so colorful and alive and fun and unique and different, and I still had depth, but I had a lot of bright colors, so best of both worlds. It's a summer palette for me. Okay, I promise you this is going to be the last limited edition discontinued palette. I'm so sorry, but this is from Oden's Eye, and this is a collab with Fancy Face, the Hummingbird palette. This palette, again, it's one of those palettes that it gives me depth, but it gives me very vibrant, bright colors and just intensity when it comes to the type of colors, like very bright, colorful type of shadows, that I had to pick this for a good summer palette. You got the depth in there with those darker colors, but you have this like really hot red, you have this green, this orange. This shade right here is a multi-chrome that absolutely transforms looks. It's so smooth, so beautiful to work with, very easy to pick up. The shimmers and mattes in this palette were just so very nice to work with, and I created so many fun and again unique and different type of looks, but the looks still were very vibrant and bright and almost like, especially if you use this red, almost neonish. Like they were just so intense, and so that those are type of looks that definitely just make me think of summer. So hence why I had to put this one in it. I won't go on too long though because like I said, it is limited edition and I feel bad mentioning it. So let me know for sure in the comments if it bothers you when I mentioned discontinued or limited edition type of palettes. Let me know if that bothers you in my seasonal kind of top 10 palettes, and I can try to avoid it in the future because definitely the summer top 10 for summer 2022 it's got a lot of discontinued palettes, and I'm so sorry about that. Okay, next up on my top 10 for summer has got to be Kash Beauty's Color Trip palette. This palette right here has got a really nice matte formula, and the matte formula for me is where this palette shines the most. It has 3 shimmers that honestly were just like, yeah, they were fun. I would use them if I had to. And then the water activated liners down here, the cake liners down here, they were okay. They weren't terrible. Some of them were better than others, but as a whole, the thing that stands out to me in this palette are definitely the mattes is kind of where this shines. And the mattes are just so much fun and beautiful. Again, gives you so much intensity, so much depth still that, I mean, at this point I feel like a broken record, but I could create so many fun and beautiful summer type looks, especially with the yellows. I remember creating such a fun neon yellow and purple type of eye look that I just love to wear, and again, so bright, so beautiful, makes me think of summer. So I definitely had to mention this, and I love that this is a rainbow palette, but it's not like a all bright neon type of rainbow palette. It gives me the depth that I enjoy wearing in the summer because as much as I love color and as much as I love the rainbow, I have to have the depth in the outer corner to ground it, or I don't know, it just doesn't scream summer to me and my preference of summer looks as much. So hence why, as you guys are seeing all of these palettes that I picked, they tend to have that depth in them when it comes to the palettes. Yes, it's colorful, but it has those shades that I can get the depth, and that's what I love so much. So yeah, this palette definitely stood out to me for the mattes, but all the looks that I created were a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure I did a multiple looks with this palette. So if I do have that, I'll try to link it up here and put it down in the description box. But another solid palette, and one I would recommend if you like my type of summer looks. This is definitely a great palette to reach for. Okay, last up for my top 10 for summer palettes. This is the newest palette in my collection, but I had to mention it because I'm having so much fun with it. I'm actually working on a multiple looks right now, so like the eye look that I have. You guys are going to see this tutorial soon, but this is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Primal palette. This palette, y'all, is just my type of summer rainbow palette because once again, I know I'm a broken record, but I have so much color in here, but I have depth in here, and that's what I like. And the tones in here, because it's primal and kind of more nature / animal vibes, there's a lot of like depth and grunge, a little bit of grunge to the look. So I've just been really enjoying that aspect of it. Like I said, I do enjoy super bright color and super bright rainbow, but there's something about these tones just having a little bit more depth and a little bit more grunge to all of the intense look instead of just being like straight out vibrant and neon-y that I've just been having so much fun with. But not to say that they're not bright and neon, because this orange, I used it just yesterday. Oh my goodness, so intense, it's so so bright. Like, little goes a long way, such a good formula, and it just pops on your eyes. I absolutely loved it. But anyway, yeah, at this point, I don't know if I have this video up, but it is coming soon. For this video, when we're talking top 10 for summer, I had to mention the Primal palette because yes, it's a new palette. It just launched not too long ago, but I've been having so much fun, and it's like a grungy type of summer palette that I just absolutely love. So I had to mention it as one of my top 10 for summer, and it's definitely going to be a standout for me for this year because the looks that I can create with this have just been so very fun and so very inspiring. And yeah, it just gives me that depth, but gives me that intense bold color that just comes together to give me the perfect type of summer look that I love to get. All right, y'all, so those are my top 10 palettes for summer 2022, my updated list. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I always like to look back at my previous years to see what still holds true and carries over, and just to see what palettes I was really into back then, about a year ago at this point. And that's the biggest reason I like to continue doing these top 10 seasonal type of palettes. So stay tuned, I'll have one for the fall in a couple months, which honestly, the fall top 10 is the hardest for me because you guys know, fall is like my tones. So trying to pick only top 10 out of my whole collection when it comes to fall, and I love like those autumny tones so much. It's the hardest for sure, but I do enjoy doing these videos, so I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Did you have any of these same palettes? Do you enjoy reaching for them to create looks in the summertime? Are you someone who even keeps to like summer looks, spring looks, fall looks, that type of thing? I tend to not, because I'm someone who is always reviewing new palettes, so I just create looks depending on the palette that I'm trying. But I definitely have those looks that even if I'm creating it in the winter and I create a look and I'm like, ah, this is such a summer look, that still sticks in my head, and hence why I put it into my top 10 for summer, kind of like I did with the Serenity palette. I'm pretty sure I reviewed it in like the winter or even maybe autumn, but I think it was the winter time. But the looks that I created just scream summer to me, so hence why I wanted to include it in today's video, and it definitely made me think of summer. But yeah, that is gonna do it for me for this video. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And if you want to continue getting daily content from me, I'm over on Instagram at LadyKD92 over there, and I post reels, up close eye pictures, swatches, you know, unboxings, face of the days, that type of thing. So follow me over there if you like that. And with all that said, that is gonna do it for me. I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.